Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to another episode of News Dose, where I give you all of the latest gaming news. And did the Xbox Series X really just casually drop its best looking game visually? There's been a lot of talk about how powerful the Xbox Series X is, but now we're starting to see some of the results, and it sounds like we may have just gotten the visual showcase for the Xbox Series X that fans have been asking for. So we're going to talk about that today and Scalpers. For the last year, it really seems like scalpers have gotten out of hand buying up stocks so they can go out and resell them for double the price, and much of the community is sick of this. What can be done about all this though? That's the question, and we might get our answer soon enough. Yeah, I got some great news there, but before we get into all that, let's go over some of the quick news, starting off with a new exciting VR game. I know virtual reality is not for everybody, and it's still considered a bit of a niche product, but if you are into VR gaming, Jurassic World Aftermath just got a brand new trailer, and it's looking awesome. I'm really getting some Alien Isolation vibes with Aftermath, and how you're playing a game of cat and mouse, but instead, they're dinosaurs, and it does look very scary. And that's the thing, I think that the premise of Aftermath is just absolutely perfect. If you like Jurassic Park, this is kind of similar to the first movie, where you're hiding from velociraptors as they hunt you down. That is terrifying, and being in virtual reality, I expect this game to be extremely scary. To this day, I think that the first Jurassic Park was by far the scariest of all of the movies, and by creating a game around that idea is incredibly exciting. Now, the art style is a little different than most VR games. It's not going for a realistic and gritty look, but instead, it's got that cel-shaded look to it, and I think that's interesting, because you don't see this often in VR games. I like that decision. I've always liked this art style though, but here's the cool thing. Jurassic World Aftermath launches tomorrow on December 17th, so get your VR headset ready. This one does have potential, though it is important to know this is an Oculus Studio exclusive. I know not everybody likes Oculus because Facebook's integration, but they do make good games, and Jurassic World Aftermath might just be another great VR experience. Now here's an interesting story that I wasn't really ever expecting to hear. So ray tracing has become a big story for next-generation games. Ray tracing, of course, has been around for a few years as PC gaming has really pushed for it, but last-generation consoles just couldn't handle ray tracing. It did get Crysis Remastered right at the end, but for the most part, it was just too demanding. Luckily, that's changed with the Xbox Series X and PS5, but even then, it's still incredibly taxing, and as we're seeing, it can and will affect performance of games. It's almost as if you have to decide on whether you want to play at 60 frames per second or with ray tracing. I still firmly believe developers should give the option of lowering resolution so you can achieve both, like Spider-Man Miles Morales. But what if I told you that the Super Nintendo is capable of ray tracing? No, this is not a joke either, because one engineer by the name of Ben Carter managed to do just that. I will leave a link to all that in the description below, but this is almost unbelievable that a console from the 90s can pull off ray tracing when consoles today still haven't perfected it yet. That is just crazy. Now, to be fair, the Super Nintendo isn't doing this all on its own. The reason this is possible is because you can add chipsets to the cartridges that you insert into the Super Nintendo. This essentially made it to where you could add new technology into games. One popular chip at the time was the Super FX that appeared in multiple games, and this would improve advanced 2D and 3D graphics. So more or less the same thing is happening here. In order to achieve ray tracing, there's an added chip to allow this technology to work, and that is something that he noted. Sure, the Super Nintendo is technically capable of ray tracing, and that's amazing on its own, but it would likely have been way too expensive to implement. Now, it's still cool nonetheless, and I would honestly kind of like to see some developers go back and make some games out of this technology. I think Super Nintendo games aged incredibly well, and I mean, we're still seeing games today use this art style from old Super Nintendo games. So I'd kind of be interested to see what developers could do with this, but as he noted, the expense of it is problematic. While we're on the topic of Nintendo though, Among Us just got announced yesterday for the Nintendo Switch, and in fact, it's available right now. This is the first time we're seeing Among Us on consoles, and that's a big deal. This could be a really important game for Nintendo going forward, and in fact, it quickly became the #1 best-selling and most downloaded game for the Nintendo Switch at just $5. So we're already seeing how popular Among Us truly is, and I expect this to be a big holiday game as people get their brand new Nintendo Switch. And actually, while we're talking about Nintendo's success with the Switch, The Switch had another huge month as it sold 148,000 units in Canada alone for the month of November. I would like to sit here and tell you that's insane because, well, it is, but we're seeing it month after month. It just puts up huge numbers time and time again, and it's now been the best-selling console in Canada for 25 straight months. That's not even including other countries because it's big pretty much worldwide. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but I think it's only a matter of time before the Switch officially outsells the Wii. I just don't see the Switch slowing down at all. The form factor is a real hit with it being a hybrid console, and Nintendo has continuously put out great games for it. I also believe Nintendo will make newer models. We've heard a lot of rumors about a Switch Pro, and I think it will happen eventually. I mean, if we just look at the 3DS, they had the original, the 2DS, the new 3DS, and a new 2DS. This is a good way of extending a console's life, and I believe there's a good chance of a new Switch in 2021. We'll see about all that, but big congrats to Nintendo on all of their success with the Switch. It's well deserved. Let's talk about Xbox though, because one thing fans have really been wanting to see is a visually stunning game for the Xbox Series X. On paper, it's the most powerful console in the market, but now we want to see that power. Well, from the sounds of it, they may have just quietly released an early Xbox Series X showcase. Gears 5 Hivebuster just released as an expansion, and it looks phenomenal. It's got several unique locations with vibrant colors that all look great, and most importantly, it runs at a buttery smooth 60 frames per second. This isn't overly surprising coming from the Coalition, which are technical geniuses, and just the overall history of Gears of War. Gears has always been a great-looking franchise. This dates all the way back to the original Gears of War developed by Epic Games. To this day, I remember being absolutely blown away by just how good that game looked on the Xbox 360. I didn't even really know what Gears of War was when I bought it. I remember seeing the Mad World trailer on TV, and I knew right away I had to have that game, and luckily I got it because it's possibly my favorite franchise of all time. And Hivebuster is an interesting release. I don't even think most people realize this is out. It's an expansion and not necessarily a new game all on its own, but it looks like the Coalition spent a lot of time not only making this a good-looking game, but just an overall fun experience. It's a little on the short side of things, being around 3 hours, but if you have Xbox Game Pass Ultimate, it's worth checking out. And if you are a Gears fan, this could give you an idea of what kind of direction the Coalition could take with Gears 6. So here's the thing. I see some of the community kind of say, well, Gears needs to evolve, and it needs to change. And I don't necessarily agree with all that. I strongly believe that Gears of War has perfected third-person shooting when it comes to game mechanics. There's nothing else like Gears on the market, and nothing feels as good when it comes to shooting mechanics. Now they can do other things to improve, and we're seeing some of that with Hivebuster. They have ultimate abilities as a main focus, similar to something like Overwatch, and that could be interesting going forward, if they want to do something like that. I will ask you though, if you do like the Gears franchise, what would you like to see them do with Gears 6? Let me know in the comments below. On to our last topic though. 2020 has been a strange and historical year. I could make a huge list of all of the things that happened this year, and unfortunately, Scalpers are on that list. This is the year that Scalpers have went way overboard. I mean, Scalpers existed well before this year, but it's become problematic in 2020 specifically because somebody decided to make an automated bot that allows these scalpers to buy up supply as soon as something gets released, and then they go out and sell it online for a huge amount of profit. This has happened with the Nintendo Switch, it's happened with Nvidia graphics cards, and now it's happening with the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. It's just ridiculous by this point, but if you're a customer and you're trying to buy these new devices, they're hard to get. Not only are you battling it out with other consumers as these products are in high demand, but now bots are buying up the stock and they're just faster. So this is a huge problem, but retailers simply don't care. I mean, they're happy because they're selling through all their stock. They don't care what happens to them afterwards as long as they make their money. So retailers don't seem to want to fix the problem, and this has just caused more and more frustration among consumers. For a lot of people, they just opt out and spending double the price on eBay, and in fact, eBay sellers have sold more than $60 million worth of Xbox Series X consoles and PS5 combined. Like I said, this is ridiculous, but can we really do anything by this point? Is this just going to be accepted, and are we just going to see this become a normal thing? Well, the UK might be our hero as politicians are suggesting a new law that makes using automated bots to buy products in bulk in order to sell them at an inflated price illegal. Yeah, this is where we're at now, which is sad on its own. However, the government might be stepping in, which is a good thing in my opinion. I don't necessarily mind if somebody wants to sell a second console for a higher price, but using these bots is an entirely different story, and it's not fair to your average consumer, nor is it fair to companies making these products. I mean, especially with game consoles where they want to sell games, but with thousands of consoles going to scalpers, that means less games are sold. Now, with that said, so far this is just a motion coming from 6 Scottish National Party MPs, so this isn't something that's going to happen overnight, if it happens at all. This could be a lengthy process if it does happen. It's also only in the UK as of this moment, but if this does pass, it's a big deal. I could see other countries follow suit with an action like this, and consumers can be happier for it. It really shouldn't have come down to something like this, but clearly things are getting out of control, and not only with these new consoles either. This seems to be a trend in 2020 with multiple products. Let me know your thoughts on this situation though. Do you think using automated bots to buy in bulk in order to resell should be made illegal or not? Let me know what you think and why. Anyways though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to hit the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.